Good morning and welcome to the Sober Identity Podcast, episode number 3. I am stoked. Like I said in my earlier podcast, I've got a really special guest here, someone I respect dearly, have gotten to know in the last couple of years. We're going to get to know a little bit about his story here throughout the podcast, but I wanted to start with kind of an introduction into where the podcast is headed moving forward. And my main goal, I kind of hinted towards it on the last episode, is I want to bring guests on that are high achievers in their life, but they've also decided that alcohol isn't necessarily serving them. And so I want our listeners to know and kind of hear some of their stories. And today I'm super excited. I've known this gentleman for coming up on 2 years now. Both him and I are part of a really amazing group of men called Front Row Dads. And the premise of the whole group is we're family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And what we mean by that is we take being dads and family men very serious. That's our number one priority versus putting our families second and going after all of our entrepreneurial endeavors and trying to achieve. So super awesome group. At the end of this episode, take a look, frontrowdads.com. The guest I have today is instrumental in that group. He does a lot, contributes a lot to the group. So really neat to have him here. But without further ado, I'd like to give you an introduction on Mike's special guest today. He's lives in New Jersey. He's been married for 16 years. He's got 2 kiddos, age 13 and 11. He's a successful entrepreneur. He's owned various businesses and just a really super down-to-earth, awesome guy. Love this guy dearly. And without any more intro there, I'm going to send it over to my guest. Welcome, Matt Sprang. How we doing this morning?
I'm awesome today, Kristian. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I guess I'm the first other guest that you've had on besides yourself, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you're the very first one. So
That's
honored
cool
to have you here.
And I'm honored to be here as well. I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me to be a part of this conversation. Looking forward to talking about it. I love the stuff that's going on that you've been posting on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I'm following it very closely, of course, and learning more about your journey and just the work that you're doing. It's fantastic. I love it. I love reading it. I love seeing it, and happy to be here to lend a little bit of my story to the conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate your support, Matt. It's so awesome to hear you say all those things. I wanted to start off just so listeners can kind of get to know you a little bit better. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you've been involved with, kind of your background, and what you're going to be involved with in the future.
Well, that second question's a tough one. We'll get to that in a second. So I've been involved with the sport of swimming my entire life. Competitive swimming. I started when I was 6 years old, joining the local summer club, community club swim team. That progressed to joining the winter swim team in the area, the USA Swimming affiliated program in the area, because it was the natural progression. If you wanted to get better in the summer, you joined the swim team in the fall, winter, and spring. So I started doing that when I was 8 years old. That just progressed. I had success in the sport and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed my friends and being around all of them. So I swam in high school. I went to swim 2 years at the University of Connecticut, and then I finished up 2 years at a Division III school in South Jersey here, Rowan University. Started coaching swimming kind of at the same summer club team that I started swimming for back when I was 6, when I was 18, just part-time in the summers. Then that progressed to when I transferred to Rowan, getting a job as a part-time swim coach. And the progression just went part-time swim coach. Then I graduated a year later. I became a full-time swim coach. Then I became the head coach of the program in 2004. And then in 2008, I was approached with an opportunity to own a swimming team to replace the team that I had been working for. So I was the owner of the program. We started a swim lesson program. The team grew from 150 swimmers to 375 swimmers. We combined with another program right after the COVID pandemic broke, and we were able to increase our size even more. We had a swim lesson program that was going really well. And then in the last year, really, I started kind of thinking about what I wanted my future to look like as a business person. And it really didn't include running a swim team any longer. I've done it for so long. I've been involved with the sport for so long that I just needed another challenge. There was a big part of me that was saying, look, you're on easy street right now. You're working like 10 to 20 hours a week running this business, overseeing the finances, overseeing the employees, doing all that stuff. But easy street isn't what it's cracked up to be. I want to be challenged. I think we all want to be challenged in some way. So I decided over the summer that it was time to sell my business. And I completed that in August. And now I am, I guess you could say, unemployed. You mentioned about Front Row Dads. I've been a trained facilitator through the exchange company for a number of years now, I guess 4 years now. So I've been doing facilitations largely online of conferences, meetings. You've been a part of the Front Row Dads summits that we run every couple of months. So I've gotten my taste of how to facilitate all kinds of different activities and quite enjoy it. So that might be the direction that I'm moving in. I'm not totally sure. What I have decided is that I'm tired of answering the question of what are you going to do now? Because I just don't really know what's out there for me, what I want to do. So I'm taking, I guess you would consider it a sabbatical right now, where I'm doing stuff around the house that we've always wanted to complete, things that we can do ourselves, but take more than a couple of days to complete, like painting the basement or installing a fire pit in the backyard, things like that, that we just wanted to add to our family. So I'm working on all those projects. I'm really involved with the kids and all their activities and making sure they get the rides where they need to go and just pouring into them as much as possible while I figure out what's next.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited for you, Matt. I know just have an experience of leaving a business myself. That's always a tough decision to make. And it's also a interesting transition, right? It's something to where it opens the door for a lot of different options, but when you're so ingrained of thinking about and doing business every single day, that is a total different change of pace. And I can imagine that's got to be a little bit of a transition for you at this.
Yeah, it is. I've had to, I guess, give myself the pep talk to calm down, if that makes sense. Instead of trying to jump into something or force myself, more like it's a better term, force myself into doing something that I'm just not 100% thrilled about just yet. I need to take my time and let things come to me. Another one of our Front Row Dad brothers, Brent Perkins, his advice to me, I'm really taking to heart, and taking more time to be still, to do more meditation, to do more journaling, to just sit in silence and allow, his words were, what's next is inside of you. You just have to let it emerge. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. Increasing the amount of meditation that I'm doing, increasing rapidly the amount of journaling that I'm doing. I've started yes, it's a blog. I don't know how Substack people refer to it, but I've been writing on Substack once a week about different things, largely around the topic of leadership, but also addressing some issues in the sport of swimming from an administrative standpoint that I see could be addressed, and some family stuff as well. I'm just enjoying being creative and doing that kind of thing rather than feeling like I'm forced and I have to work at it. Developing the writing muscle, writing every day rather than saying, oh, I have a deadline. I want to get this published tomorrow and it's 10 o'clock at night. Pretty much how I went through high school with all of my homework and labs and stuff like that. So doing things a little bit differently just to enjoy it, not because I have to.
Right. Oh, I love that. And this just came to my mind when we were doing our last online summit with Front Row Dads, was when Coach Drink had the SOAR method. When you went through that whole journaling experience, was there anything that was intriguing and eye-opening to you, being that you're in this position now of having left a business? You've now opened the door for some other opportunities. Was there anything there that opened your eyes that maybe you wanted to maybe pursue or look into a little bit further?
What Matt Drinkon, who's an incredible coach and not only a Front Row Dad brother, but a part of my Front Row Dads band, when he went through that process, he talked about the SOAR, which is a framework of dreaming, of kind of also doing like a strategic planning process. It's used with companies as much as it's used with individuals. And I am so used to doing a SWOT analysis. And when you do a SWOT analysis, what seems to happen is you start really, really honing in on the things that are going wrong. And when we did the SOAR process gives you an opportunity, well, to think about what's in front of you. What else could happen? What are your dreams? What are the opportunities? That's the O in SOAR, is opportunities. And it was really, really eye-opening because I'm so used to focusing on what's going wrong and what do we have to fix. And started thinking a little bit more about, what are my strengths? What do I do well? What do I really enjoy doing? What do I do well that I don't really enjoy doing? And what opportunities could present themselves for me if I focus on my strengths? So even now, that event was 2 weeks ago. I've been really still trying to hone in on what my strengths really are. And in my journaling, thinking a little bit deeper about what my strengths are and what strengths could be developed as kind of like a tributary offshoot of some of my major strengths. So it's not just a process that I did on that call with our coach Drinkon. It's also a process. It's ongoing for me. And I have that space to do it now, right? So it's been pretty interesting to keep working at it. What are my strengths? What are the opportunities that could present themselves from these strengths? Things like that. That's what I got from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I found that exercise was both terrifying and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it.
Oh yeah. I started, the strength piece was pretty easy to start filling out, right? I just started listing all that. And then I started to get to the rest of the exercise and just hit a total brick wall. I was telling a couple of the guys in the breakout rooms that it was very eye-opening that I'd hit that wall, but it was also really cool because I was like, you know what? That's A-okay, because I want to give myself a little bit more time and space to actually go through that again, spend some more time as the months go on without any sort of external pressure put on me. It's like, hey, I've got a great career. I've got stuff going on. What is the next kind of niche thing that I could maybe get involved with? So I really enjoyed going through that exercise and coming to that realization of, oh, there's a bit more work to do here, but that's okay. Like you said, you're in a great spot now that you've got the time to do this and the time to actually journal and really dig into it a little bit further. So pretty cool stuff. I want to shift gears now a little bit to obviously what we talk about on this show, which is kind of finding our sober identities, right? Personally, for me, my identity was wrapped in alcohol for basically 20 plus years. I started drinking when on my senior trip in high school, and that developed into more and more drinking throughout my life for a bunch of different reasons I could go on and on and on about. But I wanted to touch on Matt's journey and your journey specifically. And I've got a few different questions that I kind of jotted down that I wanted to pull up and ask you about, just to get a glimpse into what your relationship was with alcohol and how that kind of affected things for you. So the first question I've got for you, Matt, is what was your relationship with alcohol like before you decided to quit? And how did it affect different aspects of your life, either professionally or personally?
So it's weird. Maybe I can talk through this and it'll start to make sense to you and to me. My first drink I had when I was 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school. I was at a party for the first time. I had never been to any kind of like social gathering like that at all, a party like that at all, high school party. And I had like maybe half of a beer that was given to me by someone. I look back now and I know that I was the kind of person that it meant so much to me to fit in, to seem like I was like everybody else, to be accepted by people. It's a journey. Well, we could go on a huge tangent that has nothing to do with alcohol, that we talk about that kind of stuff. But, that's why someone gave it to me who I really respected, who wanted me to have it, who was like, come on, you're here with us, join us. Wasn't peer pressure at all, but I felt the need to be a part of it. And like I said, I might have consumed half of a beer. Drinking in high school was not something that happened every weekend whatsoever, but there was periodically times that it happened throughout my high school life. But when I got to college, then it was like, there's nobody watching. There's nobody I have to go home to. My parents aren't there. I'm on my own. And there was a lot of drinking that happened in college. I don't know if everyone's college experience was the same as mine, but mine heavily involved alcohol, drinking every weekend, every single weekend. That was when I was at the University of Connecticut. And it wasn't any different when I got to Rowan University. By the time I got to Rowan, I was 21 years old. So going to bars was something that would happen. I mean, every Thursday night, we'd go to bars, and we'd go to one bar and we'd close it. And that bar would close about 45 minutes before the other bar, not on campus, but very close to campus. So we'd walk there, finish up over there, then go back to somebody's house and finish drinking up there. It was all around. And I wouldn't say that there was a dependency, but the ability to be able to do it meant that we were going to do it. We were going to drink. There was no internal mechanism in our head that said, maybe take a day off, maybe take the weekend off or anything like that. So then I get into coaching, and I'm coaching while I'm still a student in college. So I'm spending weekends at swim meets. Even if I'm not swimming in it, I'm coaching in those meets. And again, it might not be like this everywhere, but alcohol is always around you, especially when you're at swim meets, especially when you're at meets where they're kind of like is a championship focus, because they'll always have a coach's social. That coach's social might be hors d'oeuvres, might be open bar. They might give you 2 tickets and you can get 2 drinks, but it never stops at 2 drinks, at least not for me. And I'll get into a second why that was a big part of my decision to quit drinking. So, we're talking now, I'm in my 20s. It's always there. And to be honest with you, and it's not easy for me to say this, but to me, the point of alcohol was to get intoxicated, was to get drunk. There was no other point of alcohol, because I look back now and I'm like, I hate the taste of alcohol. I really do. I hate the way hard alcohol tastes. I'm not a big fan of how wine tastes. And as I've gotten older, I'm 47 now. I stopped drinking when I was 46 last year. Beer just stopped agreeing with me. I would drink one beer. By the time I turned 42, 43, I'd drink one beer and it felt like I just ate Thanksgiving dinner. I would get so bloated. So I couldn't really drink beer anymore. So why was I drinking? I was drinking because I was out to get drunk. That was it. That was the reason that I was having alcohol. And it was like that for a very long time. Then we have kids. I get married. We have kids. Obviously, there's more responsibilities on the table. It's not just all about me, but alcohol's still around. We still have had alcohol in the house. And, we would go out, we'd have a couple of drinks. Even when we were with the kids, we'd go out to dinner, have a beer or two at dinner, go to a Phillies game. I'm a big, huge Philadelphia Phillies fan. And no problem at all spending $8, $10 on a beer at the game, or $3 at the game. So it was always, you go out, you have a drink. That was my mentality. So I don't think it was ever a problem that I couldn't control. I know that's, a common phrase, but it was a problem in that was always there. If we were going out, I was having a drink. If we were going out, I was thinking about when we were going to have a drink. So that's kind of where the relationship went. Now, there were definitely times where I had backed off. The most recent time was December 2019. I joined a group where we were challenging each other to run at least 3 miles every day for 100 straight days. And I built my running up so well that I got to the point where I was running 7:15 miles. I went under 1:30, 1 hour and 30 minutes for a half marathon, the fastest I've ever run in my entire life. And at the same time, I was on this specific diet that alcohol wasn't a part of the diet at all. You were allowed to have 1 or 2 drinks on one day a week with one meal. That was it. I was following it very, very strict. And then we got to like the middle of March 2020, COVID hit. I had an injury that I couldn't run anymore. And we're stuck in the house. And so what were we doing? I was drinking pretty much every night. So I went from 3 months of really not drinking at all to drinking all the time. And I was making the excuse, man, of, well, I'm trying to help the community. I'm trying to help the local brew pub that makes their own beer, just opened 2 years ago and needs to sell out because they got to stay in business. Or the liquor store, the mom and pop liquor store in town. That's the last mom and pop liquor store around. I don't want them to go out of business, so I'm going to buy alcohol from them. Oh, they're delivering? I don't have to leave my house, and then the alcohol just lands on my front step. Awesome. That's even better. And then at the end of COVID, as we're coming out of it and out of the restrictions in June of 2020, I'm starting to think to myself, all right, this is too much. Drinking every night is bad. Don't do it anymore. And we moved into a house with a bar in the basement. It's a beautiful, beautiful bar. I mean, like stools all around the outside. Like it's a legit, this could be in, an establishment somewhere bar. So we're entertaining and I'm drinking and all that stuff. It was always, especially once I turned 21, it was always a part of what I did. Always a part of what I did. And I never viewed it as a problem. I was very successful in business. It never became an issue with my family at all. It was just something I was doing a lot. And I mentioned earlier, to me, the point was to get intoxicated, but also there were definitely times professionally where I was being challenged badly, and alcohol became kind of that numbing agent that helped me. I thought it was helping me get through it, but all it was doing was turning one problem into another problem. And when you drink, obviously the problems that you have don't disappear. They can get worse. Thankfully for me, it didn't happen, but I was using alcohol to escape the professional and personal issues that I was enduring at different times. So, that's kind of the journey that up until the point where I decided it was time to stop, where I needed to stop, there were definitely a lot of times where I said, yeah, I got to stop. I need to stop. And I would say, I'm not drinking anymore. That didn't work. And we can talk about why that didn't work as we move on, but I'll stop there and turn it back over to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing all of that. And it's so interesting because I so relate, Matt. I so relate. It's like I could have said every one of those words that you just described. It's alcohol is everywhere. It's something we do. It's always on our minds. We go to sporting events. It's what we do. When things are hard in our lives, we turn to it. It is such a massive focus, and it's astounding that it gets to that point, but it's such a powerful drug. I mean, it is what it is, right? It's very addictive. It's an instant dopamine hit. It makes us feel great, regardless of what's going on, but it's something that just creeps up on you over time. And you mentioned COVID. For me, that was when everything ramped way up because I was gone through a divorce. Things were just kind of coming to a head for me that I wasn't realizing what I hadn't been dealing with up until then. And COVID gave me, like you mentioned, the excuses, right? Oh, the brewery, we got to support the brewery. Oh, well, I don't have to go work today. So I get to just sit here and I don't even have to leave my house because I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to be social and I got to be socially distant. Why don't I just stock my fridge full of White Claws and beers and go to town? And that's exactly what I did, Matt. So I've seen that with a lot of people I've talked to. COVID really exposed a lot of drinking habits for a lot of people, maybe for a good thing, maybe more bad. I don't know, but it was definitely a time in everyone's life where I think alcohol consumption totally cranked up. But I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you didn't really have, that big of a struggle with kind of keeping it under control. Did you ever hit a moment in time where it was finally like, crap, this has gone a little bit too far? Can you ever recall any time in your life where it got to that point?
Up until the point, the last time, there is definitely a spot, and that's the last time I drank. And I'll tell that story in just a second. No, there wasn't necessarily a time. I guess the picture that I'm getting from the question that you're asking is, did anything happen that caused me to realize that I was going a little bit too far, a little bit too overboard? I think there were definitely times where I had too much to drink and I didn't make a fool of myself. I don't feel like I've ever hurt anybody. I don't believe that I've ever hurt anybody as a result of drinking, but it's just like the embarrassment of people knowing that I was intoxicated. Honestly, man, there were a number of times where I was intoxicated around my kids. And luckily my kids are pretty laid back about it. And they would make jokes about me, going to bed early on Thanksgiving night or whatever it may be. But like part of the urgency I felt to really give it up was, the example that I'm setting for my kids. I didn't want the two things about alcohol that I didn't want it to be this forbidden fruit to them, that they weren't allowed to touch, smell, taste, be around, whatever. And then they go away on their first opportunity and it's available to them, whether it's in high school or college, and mom and dad aren't around to frown upon it. And then they get in and they have too much, especially with a daughter. I mean, that's something that I grew up with three brothers. So I wasn't around girls growing up as much, except for my classmates. And, with a daughter, I'm generally fearful for what could happen if she has too much or is in the wrong place with when alcohol's being served. I know I have friends who were drugged in college, female friends that were drugged in college. Luckily nothing happened to them, but it's something that you hear the stories and it's scary. So how can we create an environment where alcohol is not absolutely forbidden and they feel like they need to have it the minute they're out of our protection or out of our watchful eye? And at the same time, I didn't want it to be something that was, all around them all the time. So they feel like it's just a natural progression in life. At some point, they're going to be like dad and they're going to drink 3 times a week, have multiple drinks with dinner, whatever it may be, because that's what life is. And so those are the two examples that I did not want to set for the kids. And I felt the best way to do it, and this is part of the reason why I stopped drinking completely, was to just, stop drinking, tell them why I'm not drinking anymore. My wife will occasionally have a drink or two, especially, if it's a special occasion, holiday or something like that. But, she really doesn't drink that much either. And we have conversations with the kids about why. Why do we stop drinking? Because it's making our sleep better. That's like number one on our list. But it's just healthier, and talking to them about the lies that we're told about having, 1 or 2 drinks and how it's good for you. It's not good for you. I don't believe that at all. That you don't need alcohol to enjoy yourself. And I want to set that example for them that you can have fun. You can hang out with friends. You can go out and have dinner. You can go on vacation to an amazing place like Hawaii and not have any alcohol and still have an incredible time. So that was kind of the big push for me. But, the last time that I drank was July 1st, 2023. And we went to we're members of a community swimming club. We went there for the evening. It was like a Thursday night. I think it was a Thursday night. And they were doing Quizzo. So my wife and I brought stuff. We were grilling. The kids were playing in the pool. I brought drinks. I had 6 of a local craft beer, a 6-pack of it. And they're like 8% alcohol by volume beers. So I had 6 of them. I don't remember going home. I know my wife drove, but I wasn't totally sure when I woke up. And that really bothered me, that there was the possibility that because I don't remember, there's a possibility that I had a conversation with my wife or even an argument about driving when I was in no condition to drive. But I woke up and it was like 5:30 in the morning. Normally I wake up at that time, but I woke up a little bit before my alarm went off and I was covered in sweat. Our air conditioner is set at 68 degrees in our room. I was covered in sweat. And my heart rate, I'm not lying to you, Kristian, it was 90 to 100 beats per minute as I had just woken up. My heart rate was out of control. I felt horrible. I looked at my Whoop and my recovery was like 2% of what it should be, which is just plain awful for having been in bed for, I think, 8 hours at that point. And I laid there and I'm like, this is not how I want to go through life anymore. And my initial thought was, I got to stop drinking. And then I quickly realized that's a mountain too high for me to climb right now. I've said that in the past, and then I always find an excuse to stop or to start drinking again. So I laid there and I just said to myself, I'm not drinking today. That was it. It's Friday. It's the summer. Normally there's drinking going on every Friday, especially in the summer. I said, I'm not drinking today. And then I thought through all of the potential, I was calling them pitfalls, but speed bumps or roadblocks that I could encounter that day, be it a friend invites me over to hang out and there's usually drinking going on, or I'm grilling and, I'm grilling dinner. And normally I have a beer or a glass of wine while I'm doing that. I went through in my head all the different things that could present an obstacle to me to getting through the day without drinking. And once I recognized them and I kind of named them and I saw them, that made it a lot easier for me to say, okay, I'm not going to drink today. And when I reach those obstacles, I have a way around them. That was the big thing for me that made me really stop. That was the last time that I drank. And I was certainly overindulged, drank too much and was intoxicated from it. And I just decided that I never wanted to feel like that again. I haven't since then.
I love it, Matt. And congratulations on how long you've been sober for now. That's a huge, huge accomplishment. I know many of the people listening who either are sober or sober curious know all the challenges that one faces. Can you describe some of the bigger challenges you've had since you decided to make that "I'm not drinking today" statement? What are some things that you can tell people listening that are thinking, gosh, I'd love to try this, but it's hard. I have no idea how I'm going to navigate that. What do you have to say to those people?
That's a great question, and something that eventually I figured out. So once I got through that one day, I got through Friday. Then I just told myself I want to get through Saturday. And then it became, I'm not going to drink for 2 weeks. And every morning I woke up and I went through in my head before I even got out of bed, the potential roadblocks that I could incur on that journey. And once I got through 2 weeks, I started to feel pretty good about it. But then I was getting to the point where we were about to go on vacation. We were about to go on this awesome vacation, my daughter's 10th birthday adventure. She chose the vacation. We were going to Hawaii. I know that you've been to Hawaii recently with your daughters. It's an amazing place, but it's a great place to, have a drink by the beach, have a drink as the sun's setting, whatever it may be. So going on vacation was definitely one of those big red flags that was coming up, and got through it. But then the next one, the big one to me, is the holidays. We're coming up on them now. Thanksgiving's going to be in 9 weeks or something like that. And then Christmas, New Year, Hanukkah, all those holidays, drinking is such a part of it anymore. And even the commercials that you see watching football on a Sunday or whatever you might be watching, they have the alcohol all of a sudden becomes Christmas themed. And, the Bud Light Clydesdales with that awesome jingle going on in the background.
Yeah.
You open up a newspaper or a magazine and it's a bottle of, Jameson with a Santa hat on it. The holidays are the hardest to me, the hardest part. And it's not just the winter holidays, Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July, Labor Day. Drinking is closely tied into those events, those holidays, because it's a barbecue holiday. And what do you do at barbecues? You have hamburgers, you have ribs, you talk with your friends, you crack a beer. That's all part of it. I really think putting it in your sight and knowing that this is going to come up, this is going to be a challenge, and having a plan of how you're going to navigate that challenge is important.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you bring as far as drinks go? What's your go-to in those scenarios, these big holidays, now that you don't drink?
I've really come to like, I know I said I don't drink beer and I really shouldn't drink that much beer, a non-alcoholic beer, but I've really come to like Athletic Brewing. Their beers are really good. I've tried like every non-alcoholic beer there is, Guinness, Heineken, Stella, and all of them kind of like, they don't taste like beer at all. I wanted something that still reminds me of it, but has a non-alcoholic brew. So the Athletic Brewing has been great. Another one of our Front Row Dads brothers, Mike Brissick, talked about a friend of his who runs a non-alcoholic wine company. Off the top of my head, I forget what it's called. I apologize to that man for it, but his wines were pretty good. You could buy them off of Amazon. We did them once, but for the most part, for me, it's seltzer, like Perrier flavored, sparkling water, different things like that, Pellegrino flavored. I've come to like the Liquid Death, which my kids think is hilarious. They get to drink it too because it's like, looks like they're drinking a beer, but they know that they're not. And so that's kind of what my go-to is I don't want to drink soda. I don't want that kind of stuff in me. So it's, sparkling water with some flavor to it.
I love it. Yeah, I could repeat that, all those items. I might go to, if I'm out and about at a bar, or if I'm with people that are drinking beers, I get a Heineken Zero. I love those. Those are an awesome option. And then the other go-to is always club soda with lime every time. That's something that it looks like a real drink. So if you're at a party or some cocktail hour, like no one would even bat an eye if you're somebody that's kind of new to the sobriety world and you don't want the questions being past your direction. That's always a great one. And then, yeah, Liquid Death is amazing. I wish I would have thought of that idea before they did, because their marketing and brand is so perfect. And certainly for people who are sober, such a cool thing to have. And I'm seeing that brand, I mean, even at big concert venues and stuff now, it's so cool to be able to order a Liquid Death, But awesome. I wanted to...
Kristian, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
The other thing that I'd love to get your opinion on this, not only does it look like you're drinking a drink to somebody else when you have like a club soda with lime, or, you can pour a non-alcoholic beer into a solo cup or a pint glass. But I don't know, to me, it's still like, I don't know, something's setting off in my brain that it feels like maybe it's the way I'm holding the glass and the condensation in my hand. I still have that mental feeling a little bit of fitting in. Like I'm not doing something that's different from everybody else. And that helps out a lot as well. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yes, if I understand what you're saying correctly, like when you are drinking something non-alcoholic around people who are drinking, you feel strange, or you feel self-conscious, or is that what you're kind of talking about?
No, the opposite. I feel like I fit in when I have something like that. Even though it's non-alcoholic, it kind of looks like and feels like in my hand that it's a beer or a mixed drink. And I feel a little bit easier being around people when I can fit in, at least from how they look at me, not necessarily what I'm drinking, but how it looks. I know it's weird. I have this thing where I really think a little bit too much about what other people are thinking about me, but I guess especially for someone who's starting out and just testing the waters of sobriety, that's a good way to feel a little bit more normal around other people.
I agree with you 100%. And that was something that early on, it was so nice. And the placebo effect is real. I mean, I remember having a sip. It was one of my first stints of sobriety. I've gone through many over the last 4 or 5 years. But I remember being with buddies that I used to always drink with. And I ordered a Heineken Zero and took a couple sips, and I was sitting there chatting with the guys, and my brain went, oh, we're getting drunk now. It felt this really strange, like, whoa, for a few moments there, it was such a habit, and my brain was so used to tasting the beer, my brain feeling a certain way. And it was really neat to actually put that together in the moment of, this is really interesting, to where I can still enjoy myself, have a good time. I'm still hanging with the boys, if you will, holding something like you described. And that was really neat to experience. So yes, it absolutely does help. I personally have kind of weaned myself off of having to have a non-alcoholic beer if I'm out and about now. There's some days I might have one, but I've really transitioned just completely away from that, just because I want to be completely done, not even think about it, and the real reason is I want to be fully content with me and content with being sober, and not feel like I have to do that to fit in. It's like, no, I fit in just as I am. If people have questions about it now, I love talking about it. Obviously, I mean, that's why I've been doing things like this, and having you talk about sobriety and everything else. It's a passionate thing for me, and I love chatting about it. But I know early on in my journey, not so much. It was like, yeah, let's just kind of shy away from that for a bit until I get comfortable. Then I'll be much more happy to talk about it. So yeah, great question, Matt. I wanted to pull up a couple other things here. A big one that I have found has really affected my life is kind of how sobriety has affected my relationships in life. And I wanted to ask you, how has your relationship, number one, with your family been different or changed in any way? And then two, with some of your, either friend groups or people that you typically hang out with, has sobriety affected that in either a positive or a negative way, or not at all for that matter?
Yeah. Starting with the family, I think it's had it's not just hey, dad's not drinking anymore. Hey, Matt's not drinking anymore. It's more of a lot. It affects so much more than the mental side of things, and mostly the health and the physical side of things. And largely that's why I keep going with it. Why I have no interest in drinking anymore is because now if I drink, I get a horrible night's sleep, and I don't want to get a horrible night's sleep. And when I get a bad night's sleep, I'm irritable with my family. the next morning, or, how it's affecting my health and my ability to be around for a long time. I think that definitely played a role in it, and continues to play a role in my interest in not drinking anymore. So my relationships have definitely improved with my wife and my children as a result of not drinking, just because I'm more present, I'm sleeping better, so I'm less irritable, I'm better, I'm more hydrated, so I have more energy all around. It's like a 360-degree improvement in my life. And if we don't have our health, we don't have anything, as the saying goes. So having better health as a result of not drinking as much as I was, or drinking at all, has made everything better, especially my relationship with my wife and with my children. It has definitely improved. I would say that we have more fun. I would say that we have more intentionality in our interactions and in our relationship. And while not drinking or being sober isn't the 100% reason for that, I feel like that was the catalyst for changing a lot of things in my life, especially health wise, that allowed for those relationships to blossom even more. Now, with my friends, I have to say this, yes, I'm 47 years old and my friends are largely the same age as me, or within the same, range of years. So we're probably well past the peer pressure point of life. But I was still very, very blessed and very happy to have so many people around me just go, that's cool. Like, it wasn't a big deal. They weren't like trying to get me to drink. It only happened one time that someone tried to, I guess, look down upon me because I wasn't drinking. That was a bartender at my cousin's wedding about a month after I stopped drinking. I'm like, dude, you're not getting paid there are no payments on these drinks. I'm still going to give you a tip for the club soda I just got. But, all of my friends, all the people I hang out with, even the people that I see at parties that my friends have, nobody really cares that you're not drinking, which has been great. I thought it would be kind of taboo that I was not drinking all of a sudden, and they were. So I was maybe different, or an outcast or something like that. But everyone, when I say, yeah, I'm not drinking. Okay, cool. That was it. So what else is going on in your life? So to have the acceptance of my decision by my friends, by my family, for my kids to see that there's a difference in me over the last year, gold. I love it. And it's another reason why I'm on the right path, and I'm going to keep going on this path.
I love it, Matt. Love it so much. I'm with you. The biggest thing I love about being sober is how present of a dad I finally am. And that was, other than doing this for me, I did this for my girls, 100%. I mean, I've noticed just the things that I find pure joy in that I never had that level of joy in, because either, I don't know, I was probably hungover, or I just hadn't sorted enough stuff out in my own life and always had alcohol on the mind, or I was busy drinking anyways. If it was a function or a family function, alcohol was flowing, barbecues, like you mentioned, it didn't matter. So I was never really fully there. But now, I can see my girls take full notice, and it's so cool. They just latch on to you that much more, right? Because they can see that your dad is finally, he's paying attention to me, and he's, he doesn't seem strange, or doesn't have a headache, or he's not tired. It's just been the coolest thing. And so for those listening that are kind of on the fence, especially if you're a dad, that's a huge reason to make this happen. It changes that whole dynamic and allows you to put a spotlight on alcohol too. So when your kids are seeing that other people are drinking, or, that daddy doesn't drink. One of my favorite moments to date was someone asked, my oldest told me that someone asked her if daddy drinks beer, and she lit up and she said, no. She said, my daddy only drinks bubbly waters. And she was so happy to tell me this story. And I'll never forget that moment. That was the coolest thing. And for a kiddo to utter those words that their dad doesn't drink, what a powerful statement that truly is. And so I love to hear that you're incorporating that in your family too. And I'm certain that your kiddos and wife especially are really noticing that change. So kudos to you, man. That's awesome stuff.
Thank you. They definitely do. And I'll go back to something I said earlier. I feel like we're both setting that example for our kids that alcohol doesn't have to be part of your life for you to enjoy your life. Doesn't have to be a part of your life to go out and have fun. Doesn't have to be a part of your life to get through your day, to get through your work week. Those are all feelings I've had in the past. And my kids probably somehow noticed, picked up on when they were younger. And now they see that I can get through things without the crutch of alcohol. And I'm not downplaying anyone or degrading anyone who drinks. That's their choice. That's what they do. Like I said, my wife will still have a drink from time to time. And I support her in that because that's what she wants to do. I love the fact that I can just be like, no problem. I got the keys. I'm driving. But, having our kids see us in front of our dads, we talk about, don't tell your kids to do something. Have them catch you. Lessons are caught, not taught. And we're teaching an extremely, extremely powerful lesson to them right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're always watching, right? So if dad's walking around, cracks a beer every time he comes home from work, or, they sense all those little things and they're picking up on all that. And so to make that shift to not drink, you take that completely out of the equation. And I've had some wonderful discussions with my kids talking about alcohol specifically. And they're so aware of those little things like, oh, you sleep better, you can live longer, it's healthier for you. It's all, all these different things. And just to educate them on it is huge. And whether they decide to drink or not is going to be their decision, but it'll be cool to see what they do decide when that time comes. And obviously I'll support them in whatever they do in regards to that. But it's so neat to be able to set that example early on in their lives.
Yes, absolutely.
So my next question for you, how has your perception of yourself changed now that you become sober?
I don't know that it's changed all that much because it was almost like drinking and not drinking were two different people. And the drinking person is just not hanging out anymore. They're not there anymore. It's just the guy that, on days that I didn't drink the night before, wakes up, does what I need to do in the morning, gets everybody ready for school, making lunches, out the door. On those evenings when I didn't drink, that's who I am. So it's like that person who used alcohol, especially the person who used alcohol to get through hard times personally, professionally, whatever it may be, isn't there anymore because he's not necessary. Because I have all the tools to get through all of that stuff now. And it's kind of amazing how something like meditation, journaling, or even breath work can take the place of what you got from alcohol, what I got from alcohol, and in a much more productive way. Instead of burying my feelings in alcohol, I can journal on them and get them out and discuss them and feel like I can have a conversation with my wife about what's going on without needing that alcohol there to help me through it. So the biggest thing I've noticed about myself is that I just never needed it. And I feel like I can say that I definitely never needed alcohol to get through hard times. I just chose that as my means of getting through it. So that to me, that's the biggest thing. And the other thing is that I'm a guy who's got more money in the bank now because alcohol is expensive. And especially like you go to a sporting event now and you get one beer, and a Bud Light is $12.50 at a Phillies game.
Right.
Man, and I would go and I'd have 3, and I wasn't getting Bud Lights. I was a craft beer guy. So those are like $16 a can. 3 or 4 of those at a game. Tickets, you're spending a lot of money. Vacations, you're spending a lot of money. Just in general, in a week, we would be spending money on wine, on hard alcohol, on beer. And, every month it adds up. One of the biggest things I noticed when we were in Hawaii was that our meals didn't cost nearly as much as I expected to. And it wasn't until like a week into the trip that I was like, oh, I know why. Because this was the first time we had been in a position or in a place where we weren't drinking with every meal. So it was a lot cheaper to go on vacation and to do a lot of things that you still have fun with. I still have fun going to a ball game. I still have fun going on vacation. It's just, without alcohol. And that's great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a craft beer guy through and through. I wouldn't even bat an eye, pardon the pun, at a ball game to just get whatever IPAs they had, keep them coming. And that to me was like, that was the having fun piece, right? To just get completely blasted at a ball game or sporting event. And the saddest thing, Matt, is there's been times I've been at some games, and I'm fairly certain I was at at a Giants game where the guy was throwing a no-hitter, and I really had no idea that was even happening because I was too busy partying, too busy drinking in my own head. I wasn't even paying attention. Same thing. I remember watching, I was with Miami Heat when they had LeBron and D Wade, and it was the famous Ray Allen shot from the corner. I was blasted, but I was watching this on TV, as I'm about to pass out, basically, and not really realizing what an incredible sports moment that was. And I did see it happen live, but that was one of my biggest regrets from drinking because I'm such a sports guy and a huge basketball fan. And to be that drunk in the moment, to be watching a game in the moment where you see the replays over and over to date, and you always will, that moment of Ray Allen hitting that three against the Spurs. And I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Why? And I've had so many moments in my life where I'm like, why did I drink that much? Why am I doing this to myself? Until I finally got so sick and tired of saying that, where I finally said, that's it. This needs to be done, and get through that fear of deciding that I can't be drinking anymore. Took years and years and years, but it was always underlying. It was always there, and it's something that hopefully those of you that are listening who are so curious on this, think of all those moments you've had in your life where you're like, gosh, what could I do with myself if I stopped doing this to myself over and over every weekend, crushing any fitness goals or any other dreams I have or things that I'm trying to accomplish, all because I want to fit in, have fun, get drunk, get blasted, so on and so forth. It's something that hopefully everybody can think about for a bit. But yeah, it's amazing to think back on a lot of those moments of just why do I do this again? So it's been very nice to see that shift and to feel how different life can be and how different it is when you don't have that fog that is booze bogging you down all the time. So
Yeah,
I love that. I want to wrap this all up, and I so appreciate you having you on the show, Matt. It's been so cool to get a glimpse of this because I know we obviously haven't been able to hang out consistently over long periods of time. It's been more, on the online summits or in person at some of the retreats that we do together. But it's been so neat to get your full perspective on your sobriety journey because I know we've talked a little bit about it, but to get the full picture has been so neat. And I'm just so proud of you for taking that step because I know how hard it is personally. And to even come on a public platform like this today and speak on it is even more amazing. So props to you, buddy. And I'm excited for you and your family for that matter, for you making this big shift. But I wanted to put a bow on this whole thing. And I have got one last question for you. And it's, looking back, what advice would you give to someone who's sober curious but scared to take the plunge? And what do you wish you had known at the start of your journey?
I think the advice I would give them is take it one day at a time at first. Don't set goals that you can't reach or you've never had an opportunity to reach. I started with one day, then it was get through the weekend, then it was 2 weeks. I didn't start off any time, and this wasn't the first time that last July 2023, wasn't the first time that I had said I need to stop drinking. It was the first time that I wanted to and needed to. I felt like I needed and wanted to. But in the past, it was always, I'm not drinking. For how long? I didn't give myself an opportunity to build to the point where it was completely out of my life. So my advice would be, don't just say I'm not drinking anymore. Just go for the day. And like I did, go through all of the potential before you even get to them. Identify those potential roadblocks to getting through the day or getting through the weekend that you might encounter. And if you've named them and identified them in advance, it's easier to navigate around them to get through it. So set reasonable goals in the beginning, build up to the point where alcohol is no longer a thing. It's instead of saying I'm not drinking anymore, it just kind of organically happens that way. And second question, I totally spaced on what the second part of the question was.
Yeah, it was what do you wish you had known at the start of your journey?
What I wished I would have known is how easy this was. I mean, for me, it really was easy. I know other people have had and will have a harder time giving it up because of a lot of different factors. But for me, it was really easy. Now, I work from home. We're not, I have 2 kids and a wife. I'm not going out on the weekend every weekend, or I wasn't at that time. Like I said, there were still potential roadblocks that I had to identify, but it was really, once I broke it down, let me back up. Once I decided that this was something I wanted to do, then it became easy. Instead of it just, you need to do this, I was all in. It wasn't an external, it was an internal motivation at that point. And then just taking it one day at a time from there, it just became very easy to not do it anymore. And even now, like, I have no interest in it. At times, my wife and I were just in Utah at a beautiful under the canvas camping site. And you could buy a bottle of wine from the campsite and sit there and watch the sunset and listen to live music played and people sitting there with the wine in their bucket. But I was fine with my, Pellegrino water. And I got the same effect from it because to me, what was important was watching the sunset, not the alcohol going into my system. So once you start noticing those things and finding the alternatives and finding other ways to enjoy yourself without alcohol, it can be really, really easy. Or at least it was for me. I hope it is as easy as it was for me, as it is for anybody who tries to do this. If it's sober October, and forget about the fact that it's already, a week into October, you can still do a sober October at this point. Even if it's just a sober week or a sober day, you can do it. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do one day. Just gotta put your mind to it, tell yourself that you're going to do it, identify those potential roadblocks, and you can make it happen.
Absolutely. I love that you said all of that in regards to how easy it can be. And I think for a lot of people, the fear seems to be the number one issue for most. It's how am I going to live my life without alcohol? How is this going to work? But until you just decide, take it one day at a time, start to see the results, and then fully commit to it, it does become effortless. But it does take a few different pieces to make sure you're surrounding yourself with the proper support, make sure that you're, doing the necessary things to keep you away from that crutch, to keep you out of those situations that trigger you. And before you know it, those days start to keep stacking and you start to see life from a completely new and different lens. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But
if I could just say this, Kristian, real quick, there are people out there, I know, that alcohol is a dependency, and they might be listening to this and think I'm, a jerk for saying that it's very easy. For those people, my heart goes out to you. My love is with you, and you can do this as well. It might just take a little bit more of a team effort, getting some help from somewhere and some support, some more support around you. So I don't want to downplay people who are in a position where alcohol is a much bigger part of their life than it was for me.
Absolutely. I'm glad you threw that in there. It's very, very true. Everyone's relationship is going to be differing on differing levels when it comes to this substance. So yeah, surround yourself with those supportive people. There's wonderful programs. There's a lot of different ways to do this, and appreciate you for mentioning all that, Matt. But that was awesome. I so appreciate your time, Matt. Your story is amazing. I know it's going to resonate, and I hope it resonates with a lot of people who are going to listen to this podcast. And just really appreciate your time. And once again, keep in mind, you can always shift your identities, folks. It just takes not drinking for today. So appreciate your time. And Matt, we'll see you hopefully in December.
Yeah, brother. I can't wait. It's been, I guess we haven't seen each other face to face since April in person.
Right. Yeah.
It'd be great to get a chance to give you a high five and a hug and catch up in person.
Awesome, man. I can't wait. Looking forward to it. Take care, brother.
All right, brother.